Hello, welcome to Constructions Part 2. Part 2. You know, we're going to do some more amazing things with a compass. These lessons are designed to make you an expert at using this wonderful tool, not just for drawing circles and big ones and little ones, but for doing all kinds of things in geometry that you don't need a protractor for anymore. All right, we learned yesterday about copying a segment. And what we learned was first step in copying a segment is, here I have segment ZD. I want to copy it over here. So I just draw a random line or segment here, just a random, but I want to make sure it looks longer than the one I'm copying. That's important. All right, I start out with my trusty compass, put the one point on that end point, draw an arc, which we learned is part of a circle, through the other end point. Then without opening or closing my compass, I come over to this, call that my end point, I draw an arc that intersects that point, erase everything that's past that, and now let me give this a new name. We'll call this VX. All right. So I would guarantee, without using a ruler, without measuring how many inches, that VX, segment VX is the same length as segment ZD. It is the same. All right. So here's another thing you can do with a compass. You can copy an angle. So let's call this angle C. First thing I do is I come over and I make a random ray. This is going to be one of my rays for this new angle. And I want to, without using a protractor, that's the key, without using a protractor, I want to make an angle to the exact same measure as this one. A lot of people say you can't do it. Well, you can with your handy compass. So first I come over here to this end point for that angle, I make an arc. Without opening or closing, I come over here, make a nice big arc. Now I can open or close my compass. I come and I measure the distance with my compass between these intersecting points. I'll make a little arc right here. And a little closer. All right, there we go. So I made an arc that intersects that intersecting point. I come over here without opening or closing, put this point down here, or on that intersecting point, make an arc that intersects that first one. Now using that as that intersecting point, and I've constructed angle D. Yeah, this is construction using a compass and a straight edge. And I guarantee angle C is equal exactly to angle D. And I didn't need a protractor to tell you what that was. All right, here we get to some really cool stuff. Because I like doing these things because I like construction. And using a compass and a straight edge, here's what you can do. You can construct a perpendicular bisector. All right, I have to tell you first off, perpendicular means whatever comes down is going to make square corners, perfectly square corners, and I don't need to measure them to make sure they're square. They will be square, square. And by the way, don't look at Mr. Frazier. You can look at me all you want, but don't look at Mr. Frazier when you say the word square. All right, so here, by the way, these are examples 3 and 4 in your book on page 539, part 2 of constructing. And you can see the same directions I'm getting right there in your book. It's very easy. Okay, so I have segment AB. I want to bisect it with a perpendicular line. Now, to bisect it means to cut it in half. Exactly, to cut it in half. And the line I want to cut it in half, from here to here, the line I'm going to draw that is going to cut that in half is going to be a perpendicular line. It'll make perfect square corners. I don't need a protractor to do this. Watch. All I need is my compass and a straight edge. Here's what I do first. I open up. After I put the point on one of the endpoints of this segment, I open it up so that I'm at least halfway, I'm a little halfway, over halfway to B. So from A to B, I don't want to make it this small. I want to open it up so it looks like I'm over halfway to B. Here's the halfway point, I'm over halfway. Now above, I make an arc. Below, I make an arc. You see how I did that? I kept this on point A, made an arc above and an arc below. Then without opening or closing my compass, I go to B. Put that point on the other endpoint B. I make, without opening or closing, an arc above and an arc below. All right? So I made an arc that intersected those other arcs above and below. Now using these 2 points where they intersect, I can draw another segment. So using all right. what I drew just right there perfectly divides, perfectly. There's no question that this distance here and from here to B are exactly the same. And plus, there's no question that these are going to be square corners. It's a perpendicular bisector. And yet I didn't use a protractor. I didn't use a ruler. I didn't need to do any of that. All I need was my trusty compass and, of course, a straight edge. Let's try CD that same way. All right, so what you're going to do is 4 times. You're going to draw a segment, bisect it. Draw another segment, bisect it. And do that 4 times. All right, let's say I drew CD. Now I want to bisect with a perpendicular bisector, CD. So what I do is I come over, I open up my compass. So if I put this point on C, I'm over halfway to D. I think I am there, all right? I go above, holding this on C, and I go below. I don't need to draw a whole circle. Some people do that, but you don't need to. I'm just making arcs. Without opening or closing my compass, I come over and put the point now on D and draw arcs above and below that intersect the first arcs. Now I can put my compass down and take out my straight edge and connect those. And as I connect them, I'm drawing a perfect perpendicular bisector for CD. I now have cut that segment exactly in half, and what's even more, what I use to cut it in half makes 4 straight corners right there. A perpendicular intersection for those. That is quite amazing. You do that 4 times, draw 4 segments, and make perpendicular bisectors. Look in your book, and it gives you even more explanation. Or watch this video again. Here's one more thing we're going to have you do. It is constructing angle bisectors. Now, if a perpendicular bisector bisects a segment exactly in 2 halves, what we're going to do is we're going to cut an angle. This is getting a little messy, huh? All right, we're going to cut an angle exactly in 2. So we're going to make one angle D into 2 angles, and those 2 angles will have exactly the same measures. Again, no protractor will be necessary to do this. Here's how I'll do it. First off, I take my trusty compass. What a wonderful tool this is. Make sure it's nice and tight, all right? Adjust it sometimes, they have to be adjusted. And I draw an arc that intersects both rays. So here I had angle D and I want to bisect it. So I drew an arc that intersects both rays. Then I pick up my compass, and I can open and close it now, that's fine. But I go over here to where it intersects the first ray, my arc intersected the first ray, and I draw, just out here, an arc. So you notice the point here is where the intersection point is, and then I drew an arc out here. Without opening or closing my compass, I do the same thing for where my first arc intersected that ray. Now this point that I have drawn over here, using my straight edge and this vertex, the end point for angle D, I now construct another ray. All right, and what I have drawn, this new ray makes 2 angles out of angle D, and I guarantee those 2 angles are exactly the same measure. And I didn't need a protractor to do it. This thing is able to do so much more than you think. Now, you're going to do this 4 times. Here, I just did it once. Here, you make another angle. That's the thing. You've got to create your own angle to bisect, right? So you draw a 2nd angle, a 3rd angle, a 4th angle, bisect them all. So here I have angle E, and I want to bisect angle E. Let me show you again what you do, and the book tells you how to do it. First off, I take my trusty compass, make sure it's nice and tight. I put this down here, and I just open it up. It doesn't matter how far. I mean, I don't want it to be too small or too large. I open it up about halfway, and I make an arc that intersects both of these, like that. So I made an arc. Now I can open or close this, because out here someplace I want to draw 2 more arcs that intersect. I put this end point, I put this point down here on that intersecting point, and I draw this out here without opening or closing. That's very important. Don't open or close your compass at this point. I draw another arc using from this as my point out to that way also, and where they intersect it makes a point. This point right here now becomes something I can draw a new ray with. All right, I draw my new ray. What I've done is I've bisected angle E into two angles now. This is this angle and this angle, but I guarantee those two angles are exactly the same measure. And I didn't need a protractor to do it. You do that 4 times. Make an angle, bisect it. Make another angle, bisect it. And of course you're doing that 4 times up here with bisecting line segments too. Wow, I hope you can become the expert that when you walk into 7th grade math and they start saying, well, let's try to use a compass and see if we can draw a circle. You say, I can do a lot more than draw a circle. Hey, I can use a compass to copy a segment. I can use a compass to copy an angle. I can use a compass to bisect a segment. I can use a compass to bisect an angle. You will be an expert at using the compass. All it takes is practice. All right, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.